What is up, my friends? Welcome to Flippin' Bats. It is late February, almost March. It's go time. Baseball is happening. Full slate of spring training games every single day. We're locked and loaded. Schedule's about to turn to March. Season starts in March. The Japan series, Tokyo series, starts mid to late-ish March. So we're 3 weeks away from real regular season baseball games happening. It is that close. We got a lot to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about the Yankees a good bit. Giancarlo Stanton, his weird injury, what's going on there? The Yankees' facial hair rule is gone. In a sense, it's amended, if you will. Do you love it? Do you hate it? We'll talk all about that. The ABS challenge system is alive and well in spring training. About 60% of games are having the ABS challenge system, which is the automated ball strike system, where you can challenge if it's a ball or strike. We're going to talk all about that. Love it, hate it. It has been interesting for sure. And then a couple fun questions at the end. Which contending caliber team needs to have a successful first half to avoid being sellers at the deadline? And then what city would you love to see MLB add to the World Tour next? But we're rolling. Braves, a little bit of Braves update. Ronald Acuna Jr., who all accounts was talked about that he was going to be ready for the regular season, ready for opening day. That appears it's not going to be the case. Acuna will not be ready for opening day. Hopefully back soon after. Spencer Strider as well. Hopeful to pitch in at least one spring training game before the end of spring training, which obviously means he will not be ready for the start of the regular season, but that's not a surprise to anyone. But hopefully both of those guys, Acuna shouldn't miss much time at all. Hopefully Strider's not long behind him. Braves are going to be good, but those are their two best players on each side of the ball. They need those guys back big time. More stuff over the weekend. Shohei Ohtani, another bullpen session, threw about 25 pitches. This was a big step for him. Shohei Ohtani is back throwing bullpens. He was throwing 95 miles an hour in the bullpen, and he added a cutter into the mix, which in his words was a big step forward, being able to throw those cutters. Now, if you don't know why exactly, well, throwing fastballs is one thing in a bullpen, right? Your grip is the same. You're just letting it go. But with off speed and cutters, you're moving your arm and you're gripping the ball and moving your arm a little bit differently, which can put a little more strain on that elbow than a fastball does. So seeing Shohei add cutters into the mix here in this bullpen session is big. So as far as he goes for pitching, the plan is in motion. He is now throwing bullpens. His plan is to be back in the starting rotation for the Los Angeles Dodgers in May, in which they are going to have a six-man rotation at that time for him and to help them throughout this process. They also have like seven good starting pitching options. So we'll see what they do there. But his plan is in motion. Every box is getting ticked here. It's a slow process to come back from Tommy John and then to come back from whatever this surgery on his elbow was, whether it was a revision or Tommy John. We don't exactly know. We haven't heard the real wording of it, but another elbow surgery. You got to be careful. It's his second elbow surgery, so he is ticking all the boxes along the way here, right? Throw a flat ground, get back on the bull. It starts way earlier than that. You're throwing from 10 feet, then 45, then 60, then flat ground, then bullpens, and then you're throwing in simulated games. So he is checking off all the proper boxes. He is going along with the plan just fine. Everything is on track, and he's looking good to be back in the rotation for the Dodgers in May. As far as hitting, because again, he did have shoulder surgery. We're not just talking about the elbow here, because last playoffs, if you remember, there was talks of Shohei coming back and being able to pitch in the World Series potentially. They ended up shutting that down. They didn't want him to do that, but he was getting really close to being ready, and he probably could have thrown in a game, but I don't think it was smart. So I agree with what they did, but he injured that shoulder in the World Series and had to get surgery on that left shoulder. That's why we're seeing him have to ramp back up again and again. As for hitting, Sunday, he faced live pitching for the first time since his shoulder surgery. So he's back there. He should be back in spring training games hitting here very soon. I would say within, look, I don't know. I would say within the next week or so, I would imagine seeing Shohei in some spring training games offensively. But those were the updates over the weekend. Let's talk Yankees. This Yankees team is going to look very different this year. Obviously, World Series team last year, very good. Juan Soto, Aaron Judge in that lineup was one of the best 1-2 punches we've ever seen. And then you got to the playoffs, and the run that playoff Giancarlo Stanton went on was historic. It was incredible. It's a different team. Juan Soto is gone, and now we're ramping up for the season. And, you watch their first spring training game, and they're leading off the game with Jason Dominguez, Cody Bellinger, and Paul Goldschmidt. And you're like, wow, this is an interesting looking Yankees team. So it's going to look different. But the news out of the Yankees camp, one of the bit of news, is Giancarlo Stanton has tennis elbow in both elbows. One, this sucks, right? Giancarlo Stanton is, when healthy, can be and needs to be a very important part of that Yankees lineup. I like Giancarlo Stanton a lot. When I was playing professionally, Giancarlo Stanton for a couple of off seasons was my hitting partner. Good dude, good work ethic. He was also my workout partner, if you want to call it that. The dude lifts in a different realm than I do, but we did work out together and then go hit together. He's a really good dude and has a great work ethic, and it just sucks that his career, basically since he's gotten to the Yankees, has been riddled with injury after injury. But one thing is for sure, the Yankees lineup needs him. You don't need him to be that MVP guy, the 50 homer guy that he was back with the Marlins, but you need him to be that guy that has around an 800 OPS, 750 at minimum to 800 OPS. You need him to be that guy to hit you 30 plus homers, 35 plus homers, 800 OPS. But unfortunately, he's missing so much time with the Yankees due to injury after injury. And this year specifically, I don't think the Yankees can manage without Giancarlo Stanton in that lineup. I don't think their lineup is good enough without him. And this rotation has Garrett Cole and Max Fried and Carlos Rodon and Luis Gil coming off a Rookie of the Year. Rotation is elite, right? One of the top in baseball. But I'm not sold on this lineup. And that's not to say the Yankees aren't a playoff team. The Yankees can't win the AL East. It's not saying any of that. I'm saying to win the World Series, which is the goal for the Yankees. They haven't done it in a decade and a half. The goal for the New York Yankees should always be a World Series. And as it sits right now, I don't think the team is as good as they were last year. With the loss of Juan Soto, I don't think is supplemented by Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt. I just don't. And then you're hoping for Jason Dominguez out of the leadoff spot to really turn the corner. I think Jason Dominguez is going to be a star. I really do. Is this the year that he's plugged into the leadoff spot for the New York Yankees and produces in front of Aaron Judge? I don't know, but that's putting a lot of weight on his shoulders at his age. And now we're talking Giancarlo Stanton, who now has tennis elbow in both elbows. Nobody knows exactly what's going on. There was a report that he was set to fly up to New York City for medical testing in both of those arms. But then Aaron Boone followed up later in the day and said it's actually for personal reasons that he's going up to New York. It's unrelated to the medical issues. Then Aaron Judge is coming out and saying, well, he's in good spirits. I had dinner with him. We talked about it. He's feeling, he's feeling optimistic, and I just hope we have healthy G, as in Giancarlo. I hope we have healthy G by the middle of the season. Was what he said, and not saying like we just need him healthy for the middle of the season. It's not saying he's going to miss that much time. It's just like a bunch of unknown is what it is. And I think without Giancarlo Stanton, and I get it, the guy can't run. He can't run from second to home on a double in the gap. It's a struggle. The guy can't run. But we saw how important his production was in the playoffs and in the World Series. They are a different team with that bat in the middle of the lineup. Without him, there are so many questions. I mentioned Jason Dominguez. Are we leading off Jason Dominguez? Jazz Chisholm, where are we going to hit him? If we're leading off Jason Dominguez, are we hitting Jazz Chisholm before or after Paul Goldschmidt? As the projected lineup currently sits, and this isn't to say it's how it's gonna appear, But if you look at some of the projected lineups out there, it does have Jason Dominguez leading off, which is, I think, what they want to happen. And then before this injury happened, Jazz Chisholm hitting in between Giancarlo Stanton and Paul Goldschmidt. Well, Jazz Chisholm isn't a guy that's going to hit you 300 with 30 homers. I like Jazz Chisholm a lot. He's a guy that can get on base. He's got some pop. I think he's still yet to blossom as a hitter. I think he can be really good, but a big, big part of his game is stealing bases. And the plan is to plug him in between the two slowest guys in baseball? I don't know how smart that is. That's also might not be fair to Paul Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's stolen some bags in his day, but he's getting older. He's not exactly a speed demon. Giancarlo Stanton is the slowest guy in baseball. So you're plugging him in between there, or are you hitting him later in the lineup? I don't know. Just without Giancarlo Stanton, this lineup is clunky. What is it? Is it a get on base and drive him in with Aaron Judge, or is it just we're gonna hit for a bunch of power? But then you have Jazz Chisholm in the middle of all that, and then a bottom of the lineup that involves like Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe, DJ LeMahieu, or Oswaldo Cabrera. Like, what direction are you going to go in there? I just don't think the loss of Juan Soto was supplemented with Bellinger, Goldschmidt, and now you lose Giancarlo Stanton. I do worry about the Yankees lineup. I don't worry about them getting to the playoffs. I don't worry about their rotation. They're a very good team. I just don't think they are the best team in the American League, and certainly without the loss of Giancarlo Stanton. And I don't know yet if I'll have the Yankees winning the AL East. Division previews will be coming up here soon. But got to think long and hard and hear some more news about Giancarlo Stanton. But that's the update. Tennis elbow in both elbows. How does that happen? It was the off season. Tennis elbow in both elbows. What are we doing? Again, this isn't questioning. I like Giancarlo Stanton, his work ethic, the way he goes about things. I like all of it. But what are we doing in the off season to get tennis elbow in both elbows? I don't know, but not good for the Yankees. And we'll see how much time he's going to miss. Is he going to miss a little bit of spring training? Is he going to miss a little bit of the season? Is he going to miss a lot of the season? We don't know yet. But track record with Giancarlo Stanton doesn't leave much room for optimism of like coming back quickly and hopping right back in that lineup and being a force in the four hole behind Judge or Bellinger or whatever they do. So that's the news there out of Yankees camp. Next up is the facial hair rule. The New York Yankees, 49 years ago in 1976, George Steinbrenner implemented the facial hair rule for the New York Yankees, in which he said regulating players' appearance instills discipline. And that carried on through the 90s, through the 2000s, and then we got into the 2010s and 2020s, and everyone's saying, well, are we really going to keep doing this? Is this a little outdated? I was certainly saying it was outdated. I found a video from Flippin' Bats a couple years ago. I think it was 2022, maybe 2021, where I said, look, this rule's got to go. It was producer Taylor on the other end of this who was on camera asking me, love it or hate it. New York Yankees facial hair. I said, hate it. It's outdated. What are we doing here? Like, you could potentially not get players because of it. And to that, a lot of people would respond, well, you don't have to go. You don't have to sign there if you don't like it. And it's like, well, first off, that's not true. You could get traded to the New York Yankees. You could have a beard your whole life and get traded to the New York Yankees. And the next thing you know, you have to shave your facial hair. You have to cut your hair because it goes below your shoulders. You've certainly at some point in your career at some point in your franchise missed out on free agents because they didn't want to go and deal with the hair thing. So then you go and sign one of the best closers in baseball in Devin Williams, who, if you haven't seen Devin Williams, nice beard, real nice beard, good looking dude with the beard. Goes to the Yankees, shows up the first day, has the beard like the day before spring training, has the beard. And then it's too late. Time to shave it. Next day, comes back clean shaven. Does not look like the same dude. Different looking guy. No facial hair. Needed the facial hair. It's gone. And then, like 5 to 10 days later after that, the Yankees come out and say, you know what? You can now have a well trimmed beard. After 49 years, George Steinbrenner implemented that rule in 1976. 49 years later, his son, Hal Steinbrenner, uh, comes out with a couple different things saying, he had different conversations. The wheels have kind of been in motion for the last 10 years, but at this point, he realizes that they may be missing out on some players, and he could never come to terms with missing out on players because of the facial hair rule. Well, I do think that had been happening. Devin Williams was likely the catalyst behind all of this. He was frustrated by it. He spoke with Hal Steinbrenner. He spoke with Brian Cashman. He voiced his concern, and then they both come out right after that and say, you know what? We're changing this. You can now have a well-trimmed beard. So the Yankees facial hair policy, which I say has been outdated. Some people like it, to which I don't really get. There's not another, like where else are we saying, no, you have to do this. You have to do that. We're not going to war. We're not talking about guys in the army here. We're not talking about guys in the military. We're talking about guys playing baseball. And the rule, to me, just seems outdated. The phrase regulating players' appearance instills discipline feels outdated, does it not? It was ridiculous that this was still in place, and now it's not. And I think that was the right move for the New York Yankees to move on from this, and we'll see. Devin Williams has already said he's going to grow it back. He's going to bring the beard back. From all accounts, from everything I've heard, the hair rule, where you can't have hair below the shoulders, is still in place. Can't have this long, crazy looking hair. This is mostly just facial hair, and you can now have it. Now we're talking Devin Williams pre-shaving, and like Justin Turner. No Justin Turner, yes Devin Williams. No long, scraggly looking stuff. But big news out of Yankees camp. Two different reasons. Giancarlo Stanton, Yankees facial hair. I'm excited about this next topic because it is all over the place what people think about it. The ABS challenge system has made its way to Major League Baseball spring training. In just about 60% of spring training games, the ABS challenge system will be in place. What is the ABS challenge system? It's the automated strike zone, automated balls and strikes, and you get 2 challenges per game. It's a challenge system, so it's not just full robot umps. It's a challenge system. You get 2 challenges per game. If you challenge and you lose that challenge. If you challenge and you win, you keep that challenge. But 2 per game, you don't get extras and extra innings. And my favorite part of all of this is that a Hawkeye view, which is basically if you've ever seen tennis or the tennis view, where they immediately in the moment show you exactly where the ball hit on the line. Hawkeye view will be used in stadium and on the TV for replay. Now, let's talk about it. I think the first thing that comes, there's a couple questions here. First thing that comes to everybody's mind that doesn't like this. Oh my God, the timing. This is going to make the game so much longer. Wrong. This is taking on average between 13 and 17 seconds. It happens in the moment, and that's from start to finish. That's from the pitcher, the batter, or the catcher tapping their helmet or tapping their cap to the video replay being shown on the board to everybody, to play being back under control. It happens really quick. Okay? Point number 2 is, well, if we're going to go robot umps in a challenge system, why not just go full robot umps? And I get this, but I have never, over the last few years, I have talked about wanting a challenge system. Why do I want a challenge system and not full robot umps? Well, I still feel like there's a place in sports and a place in baseball for the human element of things, right? Umpire might give an inch off the outside corner, or an inch high or low, or might be tight on the corners. It might be tight top to bottom. I don't yet want, and I don't know if I will want, full automated strike zone. No umpire even needed behind the plate for a couple reasons. One, the art of framing as a catcher, I think is important. It's part of baseball. I want catchers to grow up learning how to frame pitches, to make that pitch that's an inch off the plate look like a strike, to get the umpire's call in the moment. That's big. I think that's baseball. But what isn't baseball is the bottom of the ninth inning, down a run, bases loaded, 3-2 count, and Angel Hernandez calls a pitch a foot and a half off the plate, a strike, ball game over, everyone go home. That's what needs to be taken out of the game, is the egregious call that ruins a game. And I think that's what this does. It's still baseball. It's still the same. There's still an umpire calling balls and strikes, but what it does is almost just like a checks and balances system to the umpire. You know what? You're human. You're going to make a bad call. But if it's a really bad call that changes the outcome of the game, we have the ability to get that right. As long as our team did what we need to do and don't challenge every single pitch that we think is right or wrong, we have the ability to get it right in the moment, not add any time to the game, and have everybody be on the edge of their seat when they're watching Hawkeye and the pitch come towards that automated strike zone box and whether it's going to be a ball or a strike. So I like it a lot, but those are the three different viewpoints that I've seen. One, get it out completely. No automated strike zone at all. Two, ABS challenge system. Implement the automated ball strike system, but have it just be challenges, a little checks and balances. Three, if we're going automated, go automated, go big, go home. But we're here in that middle ground, and that's where I like it. Keep the human element in the game. Take out the disastrous call that changes the course of a ball game and potentially the course of a season in the playoffs for sure. So I like it. I think it's been working really well. It's fun. It needs to be. If I were to see the biggest issue with it, I would say teams are just going to have to figure out how to use these. It's not coming to the regular season right now, so we will not see it during the season this year. But I wouldn't doubt it if we see it in 2026. I really wouldn't. I think we see it sooner than later. I think it's been a hit. But what we're going to have to do, because it's going to get interesting, is that pitcher, and we already saw it, Vinny Pasquantino came out the other day and said, we're going to have to take this away from pitchers. They're going to be challenging everything. Well, to a degree, he's right. The teams are going to have to figure out how to do this because, again, the point of the ABS challenge system is to avoid the egregious call that ends the game or that changes the course. It doesn't have to be end the game, right? Fifth inning, 1-run ball game, bases loaded, 2 outs, Aaron Judge at the plate. Well, the pitch was called a foot outside, a strike, and now you take the bat out of his hands instead of it being a tie game or blowing the doors open. So it's to fix that. But where it gets tricky is that pitcher that's throwing in the 4th inning of a ball game and maybe coming up to around the end of his day. Well, bases loaded or second and third, 2 outs, full count. There's a pitch an inch off the plate that's called a ball, but he wants it. He doesn't know it's an inch off, and he's going to challenge that. Well, this is my ERA. I ain't going to be pitching in the 9th inning. I don't care about that. I want this call right now, and a pitcher in the moment's going to say, yep, challenge it. That was a strike. I know it. Well, it wasn't, and now you lost your team a challenge and potentially lost the challenge late in games. So it's going to be interesting because pitchers are going to want that call. They're going to want that call in the moment, and they're going to think they know that a pitch was a strike, and they're going to be wrong, and they're going to piss off their teammates because you're losing challenges for later in a game. That's going to be the biggest predicament about all of this for me, is teams are really going to have to learn and probably put down ground rules of like, look, and we're not even challenging until the 7th inning. You can't do it. Is that fair? No, but I could foresee that being put in place because of how players are going to use this. But I like it. ABS challenge system is in place for about 60% of spring training games. It has been going really well. I like it a lot, and I think it's going to be good for the game and good for viewership, good for the fans in the stadium and good for the fans watching at home. I think it's going to be really fun. Let's wrap up with a couple of fan questions today. First one comes from Savannah. Savannah asks, which contending caliber team needs to have a successful first half of the season to avoid being sellers at the trade deadline? Thank you for that question. I'm not answering with one. I came up with 4 teams. What contending caliber team needs to have a successful first half to avoid being sellers at the deadline? First team that comes to mind, the Toronto Blue Jays. This one's obvious, right? The Blue Jays didn't extend Vladdy Jr. They should have. They didn't. I talked about it in depth last episode. Kind of a joke that they didn't, right? They're willing to throw $750 million out at the best players around the league. But then when it comes to your homegrown talent that you have in-house and wanting to stay there forever, that is one of the best players in the league, you're not willing to shell out what it takes to get it done at a discounted rate than it probably would at the end of this year. I digress. It's not done. Vladdy's a free agent at the end of this year. The Blue Jays can contend this year. Good rotation, added Santander, have a pretty good lineup. The Blue Jays can be a good team this year, but if they don't get off to a great start, I think Vladdy's going to be gone. There's a chance Bo is gone. They could sell the house at the trade deadline. So I'm going to go Blue Jays. I'm going to say the Chicago Cubs. I think the NL Central is very winnable by pretty much everybody. You could tell me the Cubs win, and I wouldn't be shocked. You could tell me the Reds win, and I'd say, yep, I'm saying that too. You could tell me the Brewers win, and I'd be like, they do it every year. You think they're done, but then they come back and win the division. You could tell me the Cardinals win, and I'd be like, I don't know about that, but like, sure, the division's weak. You tell me the Pirates win, and I'd be like, well, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Anyway, very winnable division. Cubs are certainly in line to be a front runner to win that division. And you just acquire Kyle Tucker via a trade. Now, Kyle Tucker is set to be a free agent. You acquire him in hopes of winning this year. You go after Alex Bregman. You didn't get that done. So now you're a team that wants to win and is ready to win this year. But if you don't get off to a great start and you're around 500, under 500 at the trade deadline, I feel like Kyle Tucker's got to be a piece mentioned of like, look, we went for it this year. The team isn't as good as we thought it was going to be. Kyle Tucker's a free agent at the end of the year. Maybe we can sign him back, but like, let's trade him at this point to get a lot for him from a winning team. And then Justin Turner, who they ended up signing to play, I guess, mostly DH, maybe corner infield. I don't know about that, but Justin Turner's another name. Padres are a team for me with Dylan Cease and Luis Ariz, both names mentioned in the offseason trade talks. Doesn't look like they're going anywhere, but both essentially on the last year of their deal. Dylan Cease, a potential name. Luis Ariz, a potential name. But I think the Padres are still going to be good. And then lastly, I will say the Seattle Mariners. Randy Arozarena, 1 year left. Logan Gilbert still has 2 more years of ARB. Luis Castillo, a few years left, but a name that we've heard in trade talks. They just have a lot of pitching that I think they should deal, if I'm being honest, for offense. But it's the same story every year with the Mariners. Pitching staff going to be great. Offense not good enough. What do they do to add offense? They do some move that doesn't move the needle much for anyone. Jorge Polanco. Great. Sure. Where are you putting Jorge Polanco in the lineup? Oh, you need him to hit right in the middle and produce with 30-plus homers and 100-plus RBIs? No. When are you going to go get the big names out there? They don't. That's what they do every year. So then it becomes, well, if you're going to have this great pitching and not add offense, well, maybe trade. Maybe trade some of that great pitching for great offense. But we don't really see that either. So I don't know. I get frustrated with the Mariners seemingly every year. I'm like, this team could be really good. They get into the playoffs, watch out with that pitching rotation. But the offense is always just a couple ticks behind what they need to be. I'm hoping for an MVP caliber year out of Julio Rodriguez, but they need some help all around offensively, and I don't know if they're going to be as good as they need to be offensively. Randy will help them this year, but if they don't get off to a great start, watch out for the Mariners to start trading some pieces. Randy, some pitching, we will see. Good question, Savannah. Thank you. Next question. What city would you love to see Major League Baseball add to the World Tour next? This is a good question. It's something that I often think about when we see the game taken to other places other than the United States and Canada. We have now seen Major League Baseball played in Japan, Australia, Puerto Rico in 2018, London, South Korea, and Mexico. To me, this one's obvious. And I think the majority of people listening right now will either be in agreement or are thinking the same thing. We need to see Major League Baseball played in the Dominican Republic. It has to happen. I'm actually shocked it hasn't yet. The wheels have to be in motion to get it done. But what an incredible experience it would be to play some Major League Baseball games down there in the Dominican, where so many of these players come from and have grown up playing baseball, and baseball runs deep in the Dominican Republic. And the fans there, if you haven't ever seen videos of the Dominican Winter League, like, baseball being played there is just another level. It's incredible to watch. The fans are incredible. So I've seen Dominican Winter League stuff, but imagine Major League Baseball going there and playing some games in the Dominican. So that's where I would love to see some baseball play, but I'm really open to anything. I think everything we've seen has expanded the game. I think baseball is skyrocketing. The numbers for baseball around the globe are through the roof. Yes, Shohei is a huge part of that, but also what Major League Baseball has done, playing in Mexico, playing in London, playing in South Korea. All of those, obviously Japan, but all of those help grow the game. And I think seeing baseball across the globe just does wonders for it. So I'm open to anything, but my mind, when that question was first asked to me, what city would you love to see next? The Dominican Republic. Easy answer that comes to mind for me. Would absolutely love that. But thank you for that question as well. Fun episode today, guys. Baseball is rocking and rolling right now. Soon on Flippin' Bats, we're going to start doing division previews, as we do every year. Who I think wins each division, the best player in each division. We're going to roll out all of those standings from each division, top to bottom, ultimately before the season, leading up to who I think is in and wins the 2025 World Series. But all that is coming soon. We got some fun stuff coming y'all's way multiple times a week leading up to the regular season throughout spring training. So I am excited about all this. Remember, 2025, the year of Flippin' Bats, my friends. I am so excited for what baseball is going to bring this year and to bring it all to you on this show. Love you all so much. I really do love this community. I love, quick story before I go. It always means so much to me, but I was on a radio show in Chicago the other day, and somebody was talking about Flippin' Bats and just how this show is just different than so many others out there, where it's just a positive celebration of the game of baseball, talking about everything, a national overview of the game. It's not just one team specific. It's just a positive celebration of an incredible game that I love so much, and I know everyone in this community does. So thank you all for making this what it is. Big year ahead for Flippin' Bats. I love you all. Make sure you're subscribed, please, wherever you listen to your podcast. Apple, Spotify, wherever. You can also watch on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod there. We're on all social media at Flippin' Bats Pod everywhere. Make sure you're subscribed, following wherever you listen. That does mean a ton. Spring training's rolling, guys. End of February. We'll be back soon with another episode. By the way, end of February, Justin turned 42 a couple days ago. If you haven't seen it, there was a photo at spring training. They wheeled him out in a wheelchair, and the young rookies sang him happy birthday. It was hysterical. Loved seeing that. But thank you all for listening. Happy spring training time, everyone. Remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace.